All right, guys, let's get busy talking about our cluster C personality disorders. Now, in terms of our scaffolding mnemonic, our WWW here is going to be worried, and our ABC part of the mnemonic is going to be clenched, because people who are worried tend to have a clenched jaw. So that is how you're going to remember cluster C. So these people are characterized with being tense, fearful, and concerned all the time. So they're basically just chronic worry warts. There's some aspect of worry or anxiety that infiltrates their entire personality. And it makes sense that these people would have genetic associations with anxiety disorders. This goes right along with all the symptoms of cluster C personality disorders. So let's talk about our first disorder, avoidant personality disorder. And our fictional character for here is going to be Elsa from Frozen. For those of you that don't know, Elsa has a magical ability that everything she touches freezes and turns to ice. And this leads to her having really difficult times with social interactions because she's afraid that everything she touches is going to turn to ice. She becomes really cold and she has really difficulty reaching out to those that she loves. She wants to have friendships. She wants to have love in her life. She wants to be with her family, but she's too scared of messing up, of letting her powers go out of control and letting everything turn to ice. So this leads to her being reclusive and avoiding social interactions. So remember, characterized by lack of confidence in social skills, fear of rejection, easily hurt, hypersensitive to criticism. These people would rather not try for friendship rather than try and fail or be embarrassed. So they have that strong desire for friendship, and this is a key differentiator from our cluster A personality disorders like schizoid and schizotypal. Those patients were totally okay being alone. Remember we talked about Squidward and Luna Lovegood? They were just okay chilling, being by themselves. Whereas people here with avoidant personality disorder, they really want friendship. They are just too scared to go out and get it. So that is a key part of differentiating avoidant from our cluster A personality disorders. Next, let's talk about obsessive compulsive personality disorder. And when talking about this, I want to make a strong differentiation between this and obsessive compulsive disorder, which is OCD. So for this discussion, we're talking about OCPD. And a classic example here is going to be Marie Kondo, who is a real world Japanese organizational consultant. So she helps people get organized in their life. And she is super proud that her personality is defined by being organized, on time. She's quasi-perfectionist in her art because she cares so much about organization and having things be in line. So these people obsessed with organization, order, and alignment, they have a strong need for control. Sometimes people will describe these people as perfectionists. So that's something to be on the lookout for. Now, these people with OCPD have what's called egosyntonic behavior. And egosyntonic behavior means that their behavior, so like setting up organizational schemas and calendars and being on time, this all falls in line with their personality. They're really proud of being on time, of being organized. And this is a part of their personality and a part of their being that aligns with them. That's why it's called egosyntonic. Now, OCD is characterized by ego dystonic behavior, meaning that their behaviors are not in line with how they want to lead their life. So an example of ego dystonic behavior would be a chef, a world-renowned chef who has this obsession that he has germs on his hands. And this obsession leads him to a compulsion to wash his hand 20 times an hour. Now, this is not in line with his life goal of leading a world-class restaurant because washing his hands 20 times an hour is taking away from his goals. So that is an ego dystonic behavior. That is characteristic of OCD. So that's the important differential between OCPD, which we're talking about here in personality disorders, and OCD, which we talked about previously in another unit. Lastly, let's talk about dependent personality disorder. And classically here, our fictional character is going to be Bella from Twilight. Now, if you guys are not familiar, Bella is always going to be in a relationship. It's either going to be with a werewolf named Jacob or a vampire named Edward. And she goes back and forth between these two guys. And she basically doesn't have any identity or motivation. She can't make a decision without the input or the reliance on her romantic partner. So these in vignettes are classically going to be women who are in like serial relationships. So they're always going to be in a relationship. They cannot make a decision or have identity or independent thought without the input of their significant other. So unable to cope with life, without the support of another. This is almost always going to be romantic. They have difficulty with self-motivation, making decisions, and no self-worth if it's not with their partner. Additionally, serial dating in relationships and often the victim of abusive relationships, and that's really sad. So let's do some quick differentialing here in terms of our cluster C. With avoidant personality disorder, remember, these people have a strong desire for friendship. They just feel like they don't have the skills. They're really embarrassed. They don't want to make a mistake. So they tend to stay reclusive and alone, even though they really strongly desire friendship. And that's what separates us from cluster A, who are okay with not having friendship. Next, an obsessive compulsive personality disorder, that egosyntonic behavior is really important. So being organized and on time and having everything in line aligns with their personality. And that separates us from the ego dystonic behavior of OCD, which is characterized by obsessions and compulsions that really upend and disrupt someone's life. Lastly, dependent personality disorder, think abusive relationships, unable to cope without another partner. So that's how you're going to keep these cluster C straight. Just remember that these people are worried and have their jaw clenched, and this should place you in the right cluster on test day.